The governor of Okinawa, Japan, is not happy about the presence of U.S. troops carrying and spreading COVID-19. In fact, he went on the record going after the Pentagon after dozens of Marines stationed on the island tested positive for coronavirus. So now, this is Denny Tamaki, who is, like I said, the governor of Okinawa, and he had a press conference on Saturday that said, look, Okinawans are shocked by the surge in cases among American Marines that were stationed on the island. He said, it is extremely regrettable that the infections are rapidly spreading among U.S. personnel when we Okinawans are doing our utmost to contain the infections. We now have strong doubts that the U.S. military has taken adequate disease prevention measures. So before I get into the details, look, there's been tension between the U.S. presence on Okinawa for quite some time and the citizenry of that island and our whole, basically our whole, I, I'm trying not to say occupation, right? But it sort of is, you know what I mean? We've been there since World War II. And so we've got bases there. And so a lot of people are not happy about us having bases. And look, I will also concur on that. And I agree. And so, yeah, I don't think we should have a lot of bases all over the world. Not anymore. They're not necessary. But anyway, okay. Let's get to the details here, get to the numbers of how many Marines are infected. The U.S. Marine Corps recently reported 94 confirmed cases of COVID-19 infections since July 7th at the Marine Corps Air Station Futenma and Camp Hansen. To put it in context, right, of how big of a deal this is. Because we look at this, we look at 94 here in America and like, so what? That's like one neighborhood block in Florida. I mean, come on, 94. But like, you got to kind of look at it as like a comparison between the United States and Japan when it comes to mass shootings, for example. Another horrible statistic. We had mass shootings here in America almost every month until we locked down because of COVID. And so, well, again, mass shootings all the time here in America. Shooting deaths, what was it, like 30,000 or something like that? I don't quite remember the numbers off the top of my head. However, we got a problem with mass shootings. Big problem. Japan does not have a problem with mass shootings. Japan does not have a problem with gun violence. It's very, very rare, actually, to happen there. And so when you make that comparison between America with a gun violence problem and America with a coronavirus problem, it kind of helps to put it in perspective because Okinawa itself, the prefecture, has reported just 153 coronavirus cases since February. Again, putting it in context, there are 1.4 million people who live in Okinawa and just a total of 153 known coronavirus cases, whereas we have about 20,000 troops stationed in Okinawa, and of that, there were 94 cases. So that's over half that number of cases in the American bases versus the entire prefecture. So it's kind of disastrous. Like, there seems to be a little bit of a problem. Like maybe people in the government not taking this seriously, not adequately protecting our troops, and even some of them, of course, not taking the virus seriously as well, as we've seen all over the country, with Americans just not taking this virus seriously at all. And that unfortunately puts a lot of people at risk, puts our service members at risk, the ones who do take it seriously. And it also, of course, puts people in Okinawa at risk. And so that led to Japanese newspaper Asahi Shimbun reporting on Saturday that local officials were concerned about a sudden spike of infections because he saw many U.S. military service members wandering around outside bases on July 4th. And so they see, interestingly enough, they now see Americans like, oh my God, you're outside your bases. Danger, danger. The Americans are the ones who are dangerous. That's where we're at. Now, Mayor Masaharu Noguni of Cotton, Okinawa, not sure if I said that right, but said this: "We've raised a level of warning because we believe that infections are already spreading within our community." And of course, look, they take this virus very seriously in Japan. Everybody wears a mask. They do the social distancing as much as possible, given that it is a small island, which is very densely packed. They still try to do their best, and they've actually done a really good job at containing the coronavirus. Unlike America, because when you compare it to America, we are, well, I mean, we're number one. We're number one. First for infections and first for coronavirus deaths, followed by Brazil, and then you've got Japan basically at the bottom. South Korea. Look, they're used to wearing masks. They're actually also used to being a community and caring about others. Where in America, that seems to be a foreign concept among some people. So, anyway, I mean, it's so sad to see, right? Nobody has trust or faith in us anymore. And now, like, most of the world sees America as a threat. And it's because, unfortunately, we are the threat. We are the virus. And look, while the rest of the world is battling and winning in places, in New Zealand, for example, has no more COVID cases, that zero. They're able to lift all their restrictions. You know why? Because they actually did take it seriously. And they did do, aggressive contact tracing and quarantining, and they wore masks and they did the social distancing. They did everything that you're supposed to do, and they got rid of the virus. Now they're going to be able to actually start to open up. We're still opening up anyway, despite the fact that we haven't done anything about the virus. We just decided that we're bored and we're just going to open up anyway. Screw it. Open up the country. We'll see what happens. No, that's okay. That there's sacrifices for the economy. That's the way that we see these things. And the rest of the world is looking at us like we're monsters. And I guess we deserve it. We deserve it. And so America right now, we are bathing in ignorance. And they see it. And look, the fish rots from the head down, right? Donald Trump, he is the face of ignorance. So now, of course, we're going to get people that are going to say, well, if you don't like Trump, if you don't like America, you should leave. Well, the irony here is basically every other country no longer accepts our visas. They have blocked America from travel, basically. There are very few countries now that will accept people. And even the ones who were, or I'm sorry, the ones who do, they'll make us go through a 14-day quarantine period before we can even get into the country. And so look at the irony, right? I mean, what's going to happen? Well, we're going to become undocumented immigrants in other countries to escape COVID-19. The irony of that situation is just not, it's not lost on me. In some way, I guess Donald Trump did actually fulfill one of his campaign promises. He built a wall around the United States. But unfortunately, it may not be a physical wall, but it's a wall of sorts where nobody wants to come in. And at this point, none of us can actually leave. There's more to the irony, right? Now, what's interesting is Donald Trump and I actually do share one policy position. I know it's kind of crazy, right? And before you flip out, I think you'll find that this is reasonable. He actually also wants to get all our troops out of all the other countries. That includes Japan. I do too. Japan, not happy with our presence. As the New York Times reports, Quote, the new COVID cases in Okinawa are a new strain in relations between the military and the local government, where the presence of American bases dating to the end of World War II has been an ongoing source of friction. Citizens have long complained of noise, crime, and aircraft incidents, and have repeatedly questioned why nearly half of all the 55,000 American troops in Japan, which include personnel from all military branches, are stationed on Okinawa. Probably because they won't let us anywhere else. Tamanari Kiyuna, a worker at a noodle shop, told the Times that he is scared by the surge of coronavirus infections among U.S. troops. Quote, we're very careful, wearing masks, washing hands, and sanitizing. I want them to disclose information. They are Americans, but they are staying in Okinawa, Japan. Okinawans, or the Japanese people, have a right to know. And I agree with that. That makes sense. They're bringing noise. They're bringing crime. They've got disease. I guess we got to keep them out of the country until we can figure out what the hell is going on. Those Americans, we got to keep them out of the country. Understand that this is how we are being viewed by the rest of the world. We are being viewed as backwards, as ignorant, as decadent, and now just stupid and diseased. And it really, at this point, I don't blame them, because in this country, this is exactly what's going on. And we have leadership that reflects, and I understand, this is being driven by a small minority of the American people, right? And so understand, most Americans are not stupid, right? We don't fit that stereotype, but there is a very loud section of this country that does. And in this country, our system is incentivized to float those people at the top. And they get voted into office because of a deeply dysfunctional, corrupt political system and a mainstream media, a corporate funded media that happens to legitimize it. Again, Donald Trump wouldn't be where he was at if he didn't get billions of dollars of free media coverage from the mainstream media that now, of course, is against him. Now, if we want to actually change the world's perception of us, well, we're going to actually have to start doing what makes a country great, which involves embracing science, reason, facts, as well as love and empathy for our fellow human beings. And that starts with each and every one of us. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.